Welcome to this explainer. Picture for a moment a real, authentic classroom. You've got 30 kids sitting at their desks. Now look closely at these learners. Some of them are completely lost, struggling to grasp the foundational concepts of today's lesson. Others are right on track, humming along with the material. And a few, well, they've already mastered the topic and are staring out the window quietly waiting for everyone else to catch up. Yet, as the teacher walks down the aisles, every single student receives the exact same worksheet. We all know this one-size-fits-all approach isn't ideal, right? The problem has never been that teachers don't want to differentiate. The problem has always been finding the actual time to do it. Today, we're diving into one of the most profound challenges in modern education.
Which brings us to the big question driving our whole exploration today. How can one teacher help many different learners succeed? Now, let me be super clear right out of the gate. This is not some tech tutorial. We're not here to push the latest software just because it's shiny and new. No, fundamentally, this is about solving a deeply human, incredibly complex educational puzzle. It's about figuring out how to give every single kid what they need to thrive, without completely burning out the educator standing at the front of the room.
To really get a handle on this, let's look at 3 specific students you'll find in almost literally every classroom on Earth. First up, the struggling learner. You know, what happens when the lesson just moved way too fast? How do we keep them from falling behind? They desperately need extra scaffolding and guidance. Then, we've got the average learner, working right at grade level. The challenge here is keeping it meaningful. How do we maintain that active engagement? And finally, the advanced learner. They're done before you even finish the instructions. How on earth do we keep them challenged and stave off that absolute boredom? Every teacher wants to reach all 3 of these kids simultaneously.
So we know that differentiating instruction, tailoring the lesson for those 3 distinct kids is absolutely best practice. It works, period. But let's get real for a second about what implementation actually requires. Creating 3 versions of one single activity? That means rewriting instructions, simplifying vocabulary for some, adjusting reading levels, creating extension tasks, and inventing brand new enrichment activities. Look, studies tell us teachers are already working an average of 10 to 15 hours of unpaid overtime every single week. When one worksheet suddenly becomes 3, well, that workload just explodes. It takes hours that teachers literally do not have.
And that leads us to a really profound truth we just have to acknowledge. Most teachers don't struggle because they lack ideas. They struggle because there are only so many hours in a day. The barrier has never been a lack of willingness, it's workload. Think about it. Between lesson prep, grading, meetings, feedback, and parent communication, differentiation usually just becomes this one extra massive task competing for an incredibly limited resource, your time. The tension is so real here. Teachers know exactly what their kids need, they just physically lack the hours in the day to build it.
So what if creating 3 different versions of an activity no longer required 3 times the work? That's the real question, right? Can technology actually help teachers spend less time prepping materials and more time, actually supporting their learners? This is exactly where artificial intelligence, specifically tools like ChatGPT, is completely flipping the script. But pay close attention to how we're framing this. We are absolutely not asking if AI can replace educators. No way. We're asking if AI can act like a co-planner, a sort of digital teaching assistant that knocks down that time barrier, so teachers can get back to doing what they do best, interacting with kids.
Okay, let's break down how this practically works using a branching pathway. You start with just one original lesson objective. Let's say students will explain the causes and effects of climate change. Instead of making everyone do the exact same thing, that one objective branches out. Path A provides your support activity for the struggling learner. Path B is your standard grade-level task. And Path C, that's a challenge activity for the advanced learner. It's one final destination, but 3 totally tailored pathways to get there.
Honestly, this is a massive paradigm shift. Just think about the traditional method for a second. You've got your climate change target, and you're spending your entire evening manually rewriting and reformatting tasks for tomorrow's class. Now, look at the AI transformation. You type one simple instruction to your AI assistant, something like, hey, create 3 versions of this activity, one simplified, one at grade level, and one advanced. Boom. What used to eat up hours of manual labor now takes literal seconds. The AI generates those tailored options instantly, fundamentally changing the math on a teacher's weekly workload. Let's dive a little deeper into what those generated activities actually look like in practice, especially when we compare remediation and enrichment. Take the support version. The AI doesn't just permanently lower expectations. No, it builds scaffolding. It suggests having the student match causes to effects, or maybe gives them sentence starters, like climate change happens because. This lets them actually grasp the core concept before they're forced to write a huge essay. On the flip side, look at the advanced version. Instead of just handing a fast finisher some busy work, the AI whips up a real enrichment task, like analyzing expert sources and proposing a community solution backed by evidence. Both students are tackling climate change, but they are uniquely supported and challenged.
Now let's see how this plays out across different cognitive levels. Imagine a 5th grade science class studying ecosystems. You can literally ask your AI assistant to generate questions that require totally different depths of thinking. For a beginner, maybe it's just, what's a producer and a consumer? Basic recall, right? For the intermediate kid, explain how energy moves through a food chain. That takes understanding connections. And for your advanced learner, predict how removing one species would affect an entire ecosystem. That requires serious synthesis and critical thinking. The whole class remains focused on the exact same topic, but everyone's brain is working at its own optimal level of friction.
And you know, the real magic here is that this goes way beyond just basic worksheets. You can use this tool to adapt a single historical text passage into 3 completely different reading levels, keeping all the key information but tweaking the vocabulary. Or math, you can design differentiated fraction groups, where one group is using hands-on manipulatives and another is tackling complex real-world word problems. But my absolute favorite? When you hear that inevitable, "Teacher, I'm done," you can instantly generate an awesome enrichment task, like a mini debate or creating an infographic. It opens the door to a truly inclusive learning environment.
But, and this is absolutely crucial, we have to talk about the limits of this technology. Think of this as a partnership. What exactly does the AI do? Well, it generates possibilities. It adapts reading levels. It suggests tasks. It's essentially a brilliant, super-fast administrative assistant. But what do teachers do? Teachers verify the accuracy and make sure it aligns with curriculum standards. Teachers ensure the classroom is genuinely inclusive. Teachers build those incredibly vital human relationships that actually motivate a child to care. AI is not some miracle cure-all, and it is definitely 100% not a replacement for a teacher's professional judgment.
Let's really hammer this point home, because it's the core of everything we're discussing in this explainer. AI generates possibilities, but teachers make educational decisions. The expertise? That remains entirely human. Look, an AI does not know the kids sitting in the 3rd row whose parents are going through a messy divorce. The AI doesn't know the exact right moment to offer a reassuring smile, or when to push a little harder. The technology simply hands the teacher a menu of highly customized options. The educator, the actual human expert in the room, is the only one who curates, decides, and brings those options to life.
As we zoom out to look at the big picture here, the promise of differentiation has always been really simple. Every single learner deserves the right level of support and challenge. Whether they pick things up super quickly, need a little more time, or sit somewhere right in the middle, they all deserve the opportunity to succeed. By chipping away at this massive time barrier that's historically stood in the way, we're not just cheering for a cool new software feature. Not at all. The goal remains exactly what it has always been. Not better technology, but better, more equitable opportunities for students in inclusive classrooms all over the world.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. What can teachers do for their students when they finally spend less time creating worksheets and more time actually understanding the learners sitting right in front of them? Just imagine the limitless potential of an educator who finally has enough time to focus on what truly matters, giving great feedback, building real relationships, and fostering human growth. Because at the end of the day, great teaching has never been about treating every learner exactly the same. It has always been about helping every single learner succeed. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking great questions, and I'll catch you next time.